This is Charter Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerantz. We are inside Michigan State Capitol in Lansing, just a beautiful building. And we are joined by Valerie Brader. She is the executive director of the new Michigan Agency for Energy. New is an understatement.
Yeah, we came into being on May 18th. That was when an executive order by the governor took effect. So we were really had to hit the ground running, and we're still getting the word out about who we are.
And how did this all happen? I know there had been different groups within different agencies, disparate agencies. There was inside Department of Environmental Quality and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Public Service Commission, lots of different groups. What happened?
So we had people who were working on energy policy, including things like reducing our waste in all kinds of agencies. We had a statewide award-winning program in the DEQ that helped businesses learn how to reduce their waste. The MEDC's Energy Office was given grants to a lot of people about how to do that and operating assistance. And then our utilities have programs that were overseen by the Public Service Commission, and plus there were some low-income grants that were through. So this was a chance to take three groups who were all doing really great work, get them under the same roof, have them interact, and there are examples like that in other areas too.
But whose idea was this?
Well, the governor's a pretty smart guy.
Truly, it truly was.
He really
just amongst friends, it really was his idea.
Yeah, I mean, in the state of the state, it was one of the things he really felt when he looked at Michigan. It was one of the areas, including talent, that he felt we needed a lot of focus and attention to. And the best way to do that is to bring all your experts together under one roof and let them run and play together and really be a service to the other agencies.
So what did you do right to wind up becoming the new executive director? I mean, what a dream job for someone who I understand specializes in energy policy.
Yeah, it really was a terrific opportunity. I had also spent the last couple of years working on the Detroit bankruptcy, so I was really...
just the Detroit bankruptcy, just a small little project.
Plus energy alongside.
Oh, that's all. No big deal. 10th largest state, 8th largest state in the union, whatever it may be, and small projects.
But since the Detroit bankruptcy had wound up so successfully.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, we were very pleased. It really was an exciting time to be able to refocus and dive back into energy policy that we've been working on so hard for a while.
Let's talk about energy policy, because that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What does that mean to you, to the governor, to the state of Michigan?
When the governor looks at energy decisions, he wants to make sure that we're really creating a system that's adaptable. We know we're not going to know exactly what the future holds, so making sure that our decision making is ready to change depending on what the future has. But always keeping in mind three really key pillars, which are making sure it's reliable, making sure it's affordable, and making sure we're protecting our environment. And so whenever he looks at any energy decision, he wants to make sure we're thinking about all three of those things, but then making sure that foundation of adaptability is there.
And it's interesting, and I've heard, and most people know, 10 coal-fired plants in this state are to be retired. In so many ways, that is a metaphor for the future of energy in Michigan and around the country. Talk to us about how I see it as a metaphor. Speak for me. Speak for me if you may, because I know where I'm going.
Well, all of those plants that you're talking about would have actually qualified for membership in AARP.
Oh, yes.
So they really were reaching the end of their lives, but also really too expensive to retrofit to meet today's environmental regulations. And so what we have is the opportunity now is to say, okay, what are our power sources of tomorrow? And we know the decisions we make now we'll be living with for decades. And so the governor wanted to make sure that our decision making is set up to make those no regrets decisions, since we will be living with them for decades and our children will be enjoying those plants as well.
So where do you see the state going to replace these coal-fired plants and otherwise? Because 10, that's a big number. And presumably those plants provided energy for a lot of homes throughout our state, businesses, whatever it may be.
They did, and one thing that those plants did was they turned on right when the demand was the highest. So that summer day when we all just went home and turned on our air conditioning, but our offices still have the air conditioning running, that was when those plants were really turning on. And so one of the things we're interested in is seeing if we can make those air conditioners have to work a little less hard, or maybe have yours run in the 20 minutes that your neighbor's isn't running, and things like that. Because as it turns out, we can save a lot of money just by reducing our waste and reducing that peak demand. The question is, do you really have to replace all 10? Or could you replace 9 and really save a lot of that energy?
Well, tell us.
Well, that's what we think our decision making needs to be set up to really test. Right now, we always assume that we would need a mandate or force people to do this.
Right.
What we're discovering is it's by far the most cost-effective thing we can do. For every dollar we spend buying our neighbor's insulation, we save $3.85 on buying Wyoming's coal and moving those electrons. So when you can lower someone's bill and lower your own bill at the same time, helps you on those hot days for reliability, and the best thing ever you could do for the environment, we want to be able to make sure our decision making is set up to do as much of that as possible.
But what do we do when we think about trying to create a scenario whereby people understand that their personal decisions count? Because look, I mean, the difference between 72 degrees and 68 degrees in the hot summer doesn't seem like a lot, but it is.
Well, I mean, that matters, but let me ask you this, which is, what if you still want to keep your house at 70, but I can do it by having 30% less energy? You know, if you've got an air conditioner that's 10 or 20 years old, you could immediately start saving money by replacing it and pay yourself back in just a few years. Same thing on furnaces. So, some of it is personal decisions, but some of it is, you know what, I don't actually need your house to be hotter. I just need you to spend less money getting it cool.
So what about the possibility of rebate programs? Is that something that has been considered, or do they exist already, and will there be more in the future?
Some exist today, and we would look to ramp that up into the future to take advantage of this lowest cost resource. When it comes down to it, if I could buy my neighbor's furnace or Wyoming's coal, I'd rather buy my neighbor's furnace, and if that turns out to be cheaper and lower my own bills, how is that not a win-win for Michigan? So
would rebates be best implemented through counties, through the state, through local electrical utilities? What does that look like to you? Our most successful programs have really been partnerships between government, between nonprofits, between electricity contractors and utilities. Really, our most successful programs have seen cooperation from all of those. So the answer isn't there's one answer. It's making sure that we have those communities and those ecosystems sort of set up to help people do this, because you got to have the right guy install it, you got to have the right figure out what you can do, you got to have the rebate come from somewhere. All those things work together. What about Michigan's renewables portfolio? Be it wind, be it solar, whatever it may be. Where is Michigan today on this? So today we have in law a requirement that we get 10% of our energy from renewables, and utilities have met that and are expected to be able to continue that into the future. The real question is, should we do more? And what the governor looked at with that is, in the past we always thought, well, renewables are good, but you got to pay more money for them. Up front. And what we're actually seeing now from DT and Consumers, our two largest utilities in the state, is that renewable energy is now no more expensive than their traditional, because we're seeing such great pricing coming out of wind and other types. So is it time for Michigan to look at upping that 10%? Because if it's just as cost affordable, and we know it's more beneficial to the environment, which is one of the 3 goals, is it time to start looking at increasing the levels? Well, I think your question is increasing the levels. We would expect to see that. How do you do it is really the question. If it is the cheapest solution and it helps with reliability and it's best for the environment, you shouldn't need a mandate to do it. Right. One could argue, but that being said, a little shove could help, or is it just it's too early to even get a sense? Well, I think, what the governor, when he looked at it, he said, look, what if we just did what was cheapest in the next 10 years? What would our portfolio look like? Putting aside the other things we care about for just a minute. And what he found there is that if you compare 2008 to 2025, 10 years from now, we should be getting between 30 and 40% of our energy from a reduction in waste and renewables. Her name is Valerie Brader. She is the Executive Director of the new Michigan Agency for Energy. I'm Brad Pomerantz. It's Charter Local Edition.